Yay! I think we are all
Hi.
live. Hope everyone can hear us. We'll do just a quick round of intros and get right started with our Q&A with our live video. This is the first iteration of what I hope is going to be a series of resources that developers like yourselves can be using for thinking about how to really pivot your business around COVID-19 impact, and also get to hear directly from publishers and developers like Chung Kai, who will be answering some questions around how he specifically has pivoted his business and a strategy to adjust to the times that we're in. We'll start with just a quick intro. My name is Rachel. I am on the Audience Network team based in San Francisco. As you can see, currently not in the office, as many of you are as well. But I have been working on the Audience Network team for a little over 3 years, and one of the publishers that I've worked closely with over the last couple of years has been Chung Kai, and I'll let him do a quick intro on himself.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rachel. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Yeah, my name is Chun-Kai. I run a small gaming studio called Kooapps. We have word games as well as hyper casual games. Our best word game is Pick the Word, and on the hyper casual side, we have a game called Snake.io.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that intro. We're going to dive right in. And of course, for those of you joining us live, there is a comment box. We won't be addressing any questions during our live video, but if you do have any questions that come up during this Q&A, feel free to add a comment and we can address those offline as well. So let's get started. Chung Kai, I'd love to hear a little bit more about how specifically COVID-19 has impacted your apps and how it has also impacted your monetization efforts.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely been a challenging time for everybody. I think on our side, we're very lucky to be in digital and be in gaming. And so we've seen downloads and DAU go up a lot as people are asked to stay home. We've seen usage activity go up. However, on the other side, because a lot of brand advertisers and local ads have basically stopped advertising, we've also seen CPMs drop a lot. And so as a small indie studio where most of our revenue, about 95%, is based on ads, when monetization CPMs go down, we do take a hit there. May is looking better, and so we're very encouraged, and we hope on the CPM side we can stabilize and maybe start growing. But we do see sort of on the monetization CPMs a little bit softer, and so as such, we've had to also adjust our LTV models and on the UA side and all of that. And so yeah, definitely. I think during this time we've had to reanalyze a lot of our data and look deeper and figure out how to innovate during these times.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I think that's something that we've heard from a lot of publishers is just trying to understand where we're seeing those performance trends and any type of patterns that you can draw out through, the data and analytic tools that you're using to help decide, whether or not you make adjustments to CPM targets or maybe your waterfall management, keeping a really close eye on sort of those CPM and fill rate trends over time. But that's something that we're hoping to provide more resources around in the coming months as well. In terms of thinking about resource allocation, how has your business pivoted in terms of that based on sort of things that you're now needing to either prioritize or deprioritize during this period?
Yeah, definitely. To the start of this year, we had a big aggressive goal of creating 10 to 20 hyper casual games this year. We're a little bit behind, I would say. I think we'll probably finish this year off with maybe 8 to 10 games. So slightly less in terms of volume and new launches than we originally had planned. So I think because of sort of some of the challenges, I think in terms of quantity, we had to scale back a little bit and focus really on quality and spending more time looking at data, looking at engagement data, looking at UA data for each of our games. And so we've actually shifted a lot of our resources on the data analysis side. And now all of my time is spent on looking at data and looking at UA data as well. I would say prior to this, a lot of my time was spent on on the product side and engineering side, and figuring out, you know, how can we launch more games, how can we iterate faster. But I think now with sort of changes in the market, I'm spending way more time on the data and UA side, and really figuring out, you know, what has happened in this new challenge, Mhm.
Have you been able to pick up on any, I guess, key learnings for your business around changes to your UA strategy, or is that something that's still in the works?
Yeah, it's definitely still in the works, but some of the things that was pretty interesting is, for sure we're checking UA on a daily or even twice a day basis, whereas in the
Hmm.
past we'd maybe check, you know, once or twice a week on our campaigns. Some of the things are, for example, Middle East in terms of UA took a huge hit for us
Mm,
because of LTVs and CPMs dropping dramatically. So I'd say Middle East is probably the geo where our monetization LTV got hit the most. It's down,
hmm.
I'd say, over 50%. Um,
Wow.
and so because of that, we've had to essentially sort of pause all of our UA there. I think in May, Philippines sort of is starting to see a similar pattern, and so we've also had to
Mm.
pause our UA in the Philippines. So sort of watching out for little pockets of data like that, and monitoring very, very closely. Is really important. Of course, I think this might vary differently per game. So I'm not sure if, you know, everybody else is seeing the same pattern, but for us, that is what we've seen. Yeah, and so being sort of more careful on the unit economics, make sure everything's backing out on the UA side because of monetization changes. It's been really, really key.
Yeah, that makes total sense. From a new game development standpoint, because you mentioned that a bit of this impact has been just not being able to release as many new titles as you were hoping to.
Hmm.
Do you have plans to have any like third party fundraising or relying on external resources in order to help sort of bridge that gap and getting you closer to the goal amount of titles being launched over the next year or so?
Yeah, definitely. So originally this year we were thinking of maybe fundraising via angels or VCs. Of course, now because of the coronavirus, it's a lot harder to meet with people and gather interest in terms of investments. And so
Hmm.
that door is basically that window is sort of a little bit closed. But we've actually been able to fundraise from banks now,
Mm,
as commercial banks, you know, like Bank of America, and then HSBC, and then a WaFed, Washington Federal, a local bank in Seattle, Washington. They've been more receptive to businesses like ours. Whereas maybe a year or two ago, they would view gaming as a little bit risky because they're
mm.
not as sure about sort of revenue streams. I think now gaming has been a little bit more favored. And so in terms of bank loans wise, we're starting to see that it being pretty promising. And so that's the route we've chosen to take.
Awesome. Well, that's really, I mean, it's great to hear that we're seeing sort of that external validation, especially in the gaming vertical. I know it's
Mhm.
been sort of an uphill battle, especially for studios like yourselves that have been around for years, where now it's, getting a lot more recognition, and especially seeing some of that additional, I would say, positive news cycle around just the increased engagement, increased DAU,
Mhm.
and getting to really prove out advertiser value as well. So that's really exciting to hear. I guess outside of that, what advice would you have for SMB publishers and developers, maybe ones that are dialing into the live video and who are going through similar struggles in terms of pivoting their business to fit the times?
Yeah, definitely. I would encourage everybody to look really deep into their engagement data.
Mm,
Fortunately, people are spending more time, more minutes. So session time, minutes per day should be up, and there should be more events there to sort of statistically significantly analyze sort of what's going on and really innovate and improve your game, improve engagement. I'd say for sure run more live events.
mm,
A year ago, we were probably running one event every quarter, but now we're running, I'd say, 1 to 2 events for each of our games
mm.
every month, and so that's up from maybe one event every 3 months to, I'd say now, I'd say probably 10 events a month is what we're doing. And so creating a reason for people to come back to your game and say, hey, we're running this event. If you want to unlock this skin, you want to unlock this boost, you want to unlock this game mode, come play. So running live events has been huge for us. And we typically see ARPDAUs sort of go up 20, 30% with these events. And so running more events has been huge for us. I'd say, again, this really depends on the data, but happy to share sort of one example on our side. Snake.io, we looked at the data of like really long-term senior users in the game, loyal users. And what we found out was, so the game works as such where as you play longer, you get better and better at the game. And because you get better, you live longer. You become a longer snake. You live longer, and it's quite funny. Kind of pretty interesting is because as you live longer, you of course then see less ads, right? So we were seeing sort of cohort LTV growth sort of from day 1 all the way to day 30, where it slows down tremendously per cohort. There's a taper off in terms of retention, and then on top of that, for the people that do retain, there's also a taper off because they get better and better at the game. So we're showing, maybe 5 interstitial ads per user per day on the first day, but by day 30, they're only seeing 1. And so our design team was like, hey, what if we made the game harder so they would die more often and therefore watch ads. But of course, we wanted to make it fair. You can't just like say, hey, time's up, you're dead, see an ad and all of that. And so we came up with this win-win feature called Boss Snakes. And so every 2 to 3 minutes in the game, we would have this giant snake show up, and it would be faster, more powerful, sometimes invulnerable, and so this boss snake would be much harder to kill and much harder to stay alive. And we actually saw that for the senior users, where the average score used to be about 2,500, 3,000, which means you'd probably be paying 10 minutes per life, and it dropped to about 800 to 1,000, and so we're able to see double to triple the number of ad impressions for these senior users.
Wow.
And so, of course, that's a very sort of specific example that applies to us, but I would highly recommend sort of looking deeper in your data and seeing, what are new users doing, what are your what is the elder content, what are your senior users doing, and really sort of think deep about how you can tie good game design with good monetization. Typically, sort of the fear with game designers and product managers and product owners are that it's a trade-off, but it doesn't have to be. I think if you look at the data more and brainstorm more, you can get to like a win-win situation where it's both more fun as well as higher LTV, and that's what we've done.
That's awesome. I love that example. I mean, I think that's something that could be applicable even, outside of COVID-19, is really starting to think about what those senior segments of users, ways to re-engage them, thinking about keeping them in sessions longer. So I love that example. Thank you for sharing. Pivoting a little bit more to think about sort of your internal team and thinking about sort of the impact of COVID-19 there. How is your team doing? How have you guys been able to keep in touch? How are you sort of continuing to collaborate? I know that you have a team that's global, so I'd love to just hear a bit more about that.
Yeah. We've always had a global team, largely because I grew up in the Philippines all my life prior to coming to the US. And so one of our co-founders is in the Philippines, and so we have a team there. We have a team in Taiwan, and and I'm here in Seattle, Bellevue. And then we have a co-founder, John, who's in the Bay Area. So we've always been a little bit global, a bit remote. And so in terms of tools, we've been very used to using Slack, Asana, Blue Jeans, Uber Conference, and then I would say Confluence has been huge. Be able to document all of the processes and all of the learnings, so that it's there and people can search and read and learn and onboard. That has been huge for us. And so I'd say, we've always been pretty good at this, and now sort of the true test comes. And I think, of course, in person is always easier, especially on the brainstorm side and concept art side. But I would say largely we've been very fortunate to be pretty good at remote work and such. So.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And I think any business that already had that sort of remote work baked in before this has had an easier time for sure making those adjustments. But has there been any challenges that you've experienced even in the last month or two of having this additional layer of remote work added in?
Yeah. I would say the biggest challenge is probably two sides. First off, is in the Philippines, because of Philippines being a developing nation, there's a lot of people at home where their internet isn't as good.
Mm,
So that's been a little bit challenging. The country's trying really hard to add more cables and all of that, and it's been improving. In the past 3 months, more than it's improved in the past 3 years, actually. So definitely sort of props to the cable companies there. But that has been a little bit of a challenge where when there's internet that's unstable. I think here in the U.S., internet's been really good, and as long as we have a laptop and internet, I think things are pretty productive. I think onboarding, when we just had three new hires in the past
mm,
month, and onboarding them has been something new to us.
mhm,
Um, and so we're still learning how to make it easy for them to ask questions. It's maybe not as easy when they're confused and maybe afraid to ask questions, and making it easy for them to ask questions. I think that has been a little bit challenging, and so we're needing to be extra proactive about checking in. I think keeping morale high, where we used to, eat lunch together every day and joke and and talk about games and play games together. I think that's something we definitely miss. And so we've resorted to Jiffies on Slack um,
I love that.
to help that. And then I think one unique thing, or one thing that we've done, is we've sent Sembiscus elderberries to our employees,
Mm,
where it boosts their immune system, and it's both vitamin and zinc. And because the coronavirus, there's no vaccine yet, and antibiotics don't work, it's not a bacteria. And
mhm,
so really making sure you stay healthy, like eat well, sleep well, exercise, plus keeping your immune system at sort of top performance with supplements, has been sort of our best way to encourage everybody stay healthy. So we mailed
mhm,
sort of everybody a Sembiscus elderberry, um, and yeah. And then I think on the business side, I think we touched upon it a little bit before, adjusting sort of
mhm,
UA quickly and all of that, being even more agile, because we really don't know sort of what might come our way, and sort of being prepared for that. And so with that, I really think like our team, there's definitely been more moments now where on weekends we would have sort of sudden fires where we realize
mhm.
something's going on, just because things are changing so quickly now, that yeah, our team has been absolutely amazing in staying connected on Slack, and jumping on call and checking things. So. Mhm.
I love that. Yeah, that's a good idea of just making sure even just people's health is, I mean, obviously the number one priority here. So I love that idea of sending out sort of those vitamin pack care packages. Um, two more questions for you and then we'll wrap things up. I'm curious just to hear a bit about how you've been staying in touch with the broader gaming community and sort of what resources you've been relying on just to keep an eye on trends, maybe, an insight into what other competitors in your subgenre are doing, things like that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's definitely a little bit hard because I used to go to conferences maybe 5 to 6 times a year,
Mhm.
and so of course GDC got canceled and
Right.
such, and so that part has been a little bit hard to sort of keep in touch with everybody. So I think it's just more proactivity on each individual side. So I've been
Mhm.
reaching out to people, and checking in on them, and syncing up.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I think being proactive has been really important, and then also taking part in more sort of virtual digital meetings and conferences and webinars such as this one.
Mhm.
That's why I'm really excited to be here. And then also yeah, there'll be a conference next week that's digital that I'll be speaking at as well. And so yeah, so reaching out to the community and asking, how we can help, and are there any events, happy to participate in, and share our thoughts and share our experiences. Yeah, that's how we've been.
Makes total sense. Awesome. Last question for you before we wrap this up. Specifically around Facebook's, I would say, impact on all of this. How can we as a company continue to strengthen our partnership with developers like you during this time?
Yeah, definitely. I think Facebook has been very supportive, and Rachel and Jordan have been amazing, and so definitely couldn't ask for more. I think webinars like this would be very helpful. And then I had a user UX study, or UX research a couple of weeks ago, where somebody at Facebook reached out to us on suggestions on the analytics side. So I think being able to build more cohort analysis into Facebook analytics, that would be amazing, because then this way we'd be able to tell early users what are we seeing, and then sort of senior users, what are we seeing. If you do sort of pure averages, you sort of have a blend of population from new users all the way to senior users. So it's a little bit hard to gain insights into what the life cycle looks like for each individual gamer. So I think if Facebook analytics could add in sort of more cohort-based views, and allow us to sort of dig into the data on a cohort by cohort basis, that would be amazing.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Facebook product team, if you're watching this, we have direct feedback. Cool. Well, any final thoughts, any final, last pieces of advice you'd like to share with everyone before we hop off today?
Yeah, no, I think yeah, thank you everybody for this opportunity. It's definitely challenging times, and I think at times like this, looking at the data more and figuring out what to do and brainstorming, we've seen has helped us tremendously, and I hope this talk was helpful for everybody. And feel free to find me on LinkedIn and add me and reach out. I'm happy to help and share our experience.
Awesome. Well, that sort of wraps things up for us. Chung Kai, thank you so much again for your time. Your insights were incredibly helpful. I hope this was helpful for everyone. Again, if you have questions, feel free to comment, even if you're not watching this live, just the recorded version. But we will hopefully be coming out with more of these. So hope this resource was helpful, and stay safe and healthy out there, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Rachel.
Thank you.